Jerry Lee Lewis was born on September 29, 1935, in Faraday, Louisiana. His family was poor, but music ran through their small home. From the moment Jerry could reach the keys, he was drawn to the piano. His parents noticed his wild energy and believed he was meant for something greater. Unlike most kids, Jerry didn't just play songs, he attacked the piano. He would slam his hands down with power, kick the stool away, and make the piano roar. That fire earned him the nickname that would follow him forever, the Killer. But Jerry's early life wasn't easy. Money was scarce and his parents struggled. His father even mortgaged the family farm to buy him his first piano. That gamble would change music history. By the time Jerry was a teenager, he was already sneaking into clubs, playing music that was a mix of gospel, country, and blues. He wasn't just playing, he was inventing something new, rock and roll. Most rock pioneers played guitar. Jerry Lee Lewis dared to make the piano the loudest instrument in the room. He banged on the keys, stood on the bench, even kicked it aside mid-performance. His shows were chaos, but unforgettable. In the early 1950s, Jerry traveled to Memphis to audition at Sun Records, the same studio that had launched Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, and Carl Perkins. At first, Sun founder Sam Phillips wasn't sure. A piano man in rock? It sounded risky. But Jerry didn't play it safe. He pounded out songs with such force that no one could ignore him. His breakthrough came when he recorded "Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On." The song exploded, making Jerry a household name. His wild stage performances shocked conservative audiences, but teenagers couldn't get enough. He didn't just play music, he unleashed it. From that point, Jerry Lee Lewis wasn't just another musician, he was the wild man of rock and roll. When Jerry became famous, people immediately compared him to Elvis Presley. Both were from the South, both recorded at Sun Records, and both had that dangerous energy that parents feared but kids adored. Jerry, however, didn't like being called the next Elvis. In his mind, he was something different, maybe even greater. Elvis had charm and a smile. Jerry had fire and fury. He once famously told a reporter, "Elvis, he ain't got nothing on me. I'm the real king of rock and roll." That rivalry became part of Jerry's identity. He saw Elvis as the smooth star, but himself as the raw truth. When the two crossed paths, there was respect, but also competition. At Sun Records, Jerry would pound the piano so hard that other musicians struggled to keep up. He wanted everyone to know the Killer had arrived, and he wasn't stepping aside. But Jerry's ambition and reckless lifestyle would soon put him on a dangerous path, one that even Elvis never dared to walk. At the height of his fame in 1958, Jerry Lee Lewis had the world at his feet. He was touring England, playing sold-out shows and hailed as one of rock's brightest stars. But then came the scandal that nearly destroyed him. Reporters discovered that Jerry had secretly married his 13-year-old cousin, Myra Gale Brown. The news shocked fans worldwide. In England, the press hounded him at every stop. Newspapers called him a disgrace. His concerts were canceled. His career, which had been exploding, suddenly crashed. Jerry was defiant. He insisted he had done nothing wrong, saying, "I just married the one I loved." But the world wasn't ready to forgive. Radio stations banned his songs, promoters dropped him, and his income collapsed overnight. For years, Jerry Lee Lewis went from being one of rock's biggest stars to a man fighting to keep his career alive. The scandal haunted him, but he never stopped playing music. When rock audiences turned their backs, Jerry made a bold move. He turned to country music. In the 1960s, his fiery piano playing took a softer, more soulful turn. Songs like "Another Place, Another Time" and "What's Made Milwaukee Famous" gave him new life as a country star. Fans who had once seen him as too wild began to embrace his emotional side. His voice carried heartbreak, pain, and real Southern grit. The country charts welcomed him, and Jerry proved he wasn't just a one-style artist. He could conquer both rock and country. This reinvention saved his career. Though he never regained the same explosive fame of the 1950s, Jerry carved out a long-lasting legacy. His shows were still unpredictable, still filled with fire, but now with a mix of country ballads that showed another side of the Killer. Jerry Lee Lewis had fallen, but he had also risen again. Behind the music, Jerry Lee Lewis lived a life filled with tragedy. His marriages were stormy, and heartbreak seemed to follow him. His young son, Steve Allen Lewis, drowned at the age of 3. Later, another son, Jerry Lee Lewis Jr., died in a car accident. These losses crushed him, but he buried his pain in his music and wild lifestyle. Jerry's personal demons grew. Drinking, drugs, and fights seemed to follow wherever he went. His temper and reckless choices made headlines just as much as his songs. Friends often said Jerry lived as if he didn't care about tomorrow. He pushed limits both on stage and off. This might have made him a legend, but it also left scars he carried for the rest of his life. Even as tragedies piled up, Jerry never stopped playing. To him, music was survival. The stage was the only place he could release his pain and keep moving forward. Jerry Lee Lewis built a reputation as one of the wildest performers in history. On stage, he would light pianos on fire, kick over stools, and play with his feet. Crowds loved it, and his nickname, The Killer, stuck. But off stage, his wild reputation was just as strong. He got into fights, argued with other stars, and lived a lifestyle filled with controversy. Stories of Jerry showing up at Graceland with a gun demanding to see Elvis became part of rock and roll legend. His attitude was simple. He lived by his own rules. While that made him unforgettable, it also cost him friends, family, and career opportunities. Record labels feared his unpredictability, but fans couldn't look away. Jerry wasn't just a musician, he was a force of nature. Despite scandals and setbacks, Jerry Lee Lewis never stopped touring. By the 1980s and 1990s, a new generation began to rediscover him. Younger rock stars like Bruce Springsteen and Keith Richards praised him as a true original. In 1986, Jerry was inducted into the very first class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, alongside Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, and Little Richard. It was official. Jerry Lee Lewis wasn't just a wild man. He was one of the founding fathers of rock and roll. The recognition gave him new respect. Critics who once dismissed him now admitted that without Jerry's pounding piano and fearless performances, rock would never have been the same. After decades of chaos, Jerry finally had the honor he always believed he deserved. As he grew older, Jerry's fire never completely faded. Even in his 70s, he would sit at the piano and play with the same ferocity as in the 1950s. His health began to decline, but his spirit remained. In 2006, he released Last Man Standing, a record that featured duets with legends like Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and B.B. King. The title reflected a truth. Jerry was one of the last surviving pioneers of rock and roll. Fans came to his shows not just to hear the music, but to witness history. The Killer had lived through scandals, losses, and battles, but he was still standing, still pounding those keys. Jerry Lee Lewis passed away on October 28, 2022, at the age of 87. His death marked the end of an era, but his influence lives on in every rock band that values chaos, rebellion, and raw energy. He proved that the piano could be just as wild as any guitar. He broke rules, angered critics, and shocked the world, but he never stopped being himself. Jerry once said, "I never set out to be a role model. I just play the music the way I feel it." That honesty defined his life. Today, Jerry Lee Lewis is remembered as both a troubled man and a musical genius. He was dangerous, flawed, and unforgettable. More than anyone else, he showed the world that rock and roll wasn't just music, it was fire. The Killer's flame will never die.